This bow reminds me of the woman we made a film of it, right?
It's disappeared. That's magic. That's strange. You see something and then it's...
Of course you have Jewish cemeteries.
Yeah, there's a Jewish synagogue.
But this is ones, of family graves, eh? A lot of them.
This is obviously a family grave. They're
it's
waiting
family
for...
grave and the chains around it.
Yeah. Well, I said I was 19. I left Paris and stopped in this little French town and saw the cemetery and just walked in. And they had pictures. And I remember being really...
Yeah, being shocked. Yeah.
The idea that you could... And then when I was in Italy this time, I thought I remembered you see this in another place in Eastern Europe as well. Having sentient existence just for one day, like a mayfly, literally. I did read one, and it wasn't that long ago. I'm going to get some recommendations from you. It's always about how well translated they are as well for me. To this one here?
Yeah.
The figure?
The figure, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of has this, for me, it has this, I don't know how deliberate it was.
No, it's a father carrying the child.
Doesn't he sometimes, Christopher, carry the lamb, over his shoulder?
Yeah. still by the graves of a writer. You ask me if he killed himself or not. Why did you ask that?
In honesty, I'm not sure what provoked that, except that writers, I guess because it's something, one thing I do in my own life is write, and writers tend to be, of their very nature, they tend to be reflective people. And one of the questions when you reflect on life is, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's the point of it? And
but don't you give yourself the answers while writing? If there is an answer.
well, maybe you get to a wall. Maybe you get to a wall. Maybe you go through a number of walls and there are doors, and maybe you get to a wall and it doesn't look like there's a door anymore. If you're born and you're alive, one of the options you have, whatever kind of situation you live in life, one of the things that is your, potentially anyway, your choice is how long do I want to live, and how...
You can take it in your own hands.
Take it into your own hands rather than wait for nature, or if you believe in God, or whatever, to decide for you. And particularly, of course, getting older, that becomes a more...
Crucial fact.
Yeah, a more meaningful question, I think, which is thinking about one's own mortality, and certainly going around a graveyard like this very lovely...
But a writer is always thinking about his own mortality, don't you think?
Yes. It made me think about, as I was walking around, you may have noticed, I was taking notes, and just to see where the notes take me, I often start writing having no idea why I'm writing or what I want to write. And what I started observing was this whole thing about memory and remembrance, and how we remember things, the way that we choose to remember our loved ones. And that's obviously a very strong feeling when you enter.
I was reading the lines on the tombstone, but you didn't understand the lines, I think. So you made your own story of it. Yeah. And that you wrote down.
It's a tendency I have anyway.
Yeah. Okay. That's a gift of a writer. We can escape through our stories. That's what we do, I think.
I wrote a little thing about, it never used to interest me, at least maybe I was in denial. It never used to bother me that I would leave anything behind. You know, as a gay man, I don't have children, and it never occurred to me that I would ever want or need to leave anything. I had this idea that I wanted to tread lightly on the planet, not leave a mark. It's
you mean you didn't start writing to be immortal?
No, I don't think I started writing to become immortal, but I've suddenly discovered in the last, maybe just the last few years, that I do have this craving to put some marker down, something.
To urge the need to say, I was here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when I've been travelling by train, the graffiti everywhere, every city you go into, Paris, Rome, even Amsterdam, obviously, and you just see these kids who want to put a mark, who say, I'm here, I exist, this is my tag, this is my name, this is my identification, whatever the impulse is, but it seems to me that's part of it.
You could buy a little thin box of paint and airbrush the whole train.
Yeah, it'd be an easier solution, really. Just start doing graffiti, be a middle-aged graffiti artist. Yeah, except obviously there are other, joking aside, there are other...
But why is it important to leave something behind?
Well, of course, obviously it's not important. And anything that's important is because we, or I, a society, somebody decides it's important. You wanted to nurture, you wanted to make a family. And so I started making a list of the things that I've craved since I was a baby. So once you have those basic needs met, something else kicks in, a need for, I suppose you could say recognition, approval, and then spiritual, something outside of yourself. And I thought, well, I do want to create something of value, maybe of even lasting value, or at least that's something that's passed on. That.
And you are walking, and I'm walking towards the graves, and we are almost done, perhaps. We're on the middle of our life.
More than the middle.
More than the middle. And here we are thinking about what we are going to leave on this planet.
Yeah, 1-year-old or a
1-year-old
one-day-old baby doesn't get this.
No, he hasn't had his thoughts.
Well, there was one place in
but
this,
he had a parent, of course, who wanted him because there was something to leave behind. But could you tell me, or could you read a line that you put down this afternoon? Or is it too private?
I wrote at one point 6 pages of note to find a poem. I put...
I was wondering the list you mentioned.
Yeah, I've got the list in front of me now. Who will remember me? It doesn't matter anymore. This longing for memory, for remembrance. And then I noticed I had a physical sensation. I said, well, there's a nausea in my stomach right now when I have that connection. And then I started just randomly, I don't know how meaningful all of these are, but this is the list. I love lists, so this list came into my head. I put first, we want milk, cuddles, skin, mother's smell, touch, kiss, holding in her arms. We want friends, we want a gang, we want peer approval, we want to be cool, we want teachers' praise, we want a gold star, we want a red tick, we want ice cream, we want sun, we want a sweet apple on the tongue, we want sugar, we want crackle, pop, we want a song to sing, we want a dance, something to dance to. And then at that exact moment, Wouter pointed out a grave, Samen spelen, Samen leven.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a wonderful connection immediately with what, and that's like playing together, living together, daddy, adventure, game, test, being right, coloured pens, bricks, patterns, to be shaken, to be immersed, water, waves, fear, excitement, risk, roller coaster, birds, ants, fleas, beetles, leaves, spawns, stones, sand, rock, climbing. Then we want comfort. And then, you know, the ticking clock, the blanket, the cushion, the pillow, the warmth, the light in the dark. We crave, we need, we want sweet dreams, we want bedtime stories, we want wank, we want sex dreams. I was thinking of adolescence, when we suddenly go into a whole other kind of craving. You want to be, in my case, near the next boy, longing, a lust to take that into action. Some people want teams, approval, the other side of the net, somebody to challenge you, somebody to talk with at night in the dark, to open your secret heart. God, Jesus, saints, soul, confession. And then I thought about my own adolescent trajectory. And then truth, this idea of truth became a craving. Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, Schopenhauer, Marx, Tolstoy, Tolkien. Anywhere I could find somebody who had a world view. Art, beauty then became the next craving for me. So a lot of going to see a lot of art, seeing paintings.
Your mind did a lot of work where you were standing there.
And then I thought, well, there's all this. That's one trajectory. You could, I could follow that line like a graph of all the different cravings and needs and longings at different times I've had in my life, whether they're physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual. And then I'm walking down this gravel path in this graveyard thinking, the cravings never go away. The cravings never go away. And now I have a craving for recognition. I want somebody somewhere to remember me. And then the question comes, why? Why will it matter at that point? It won't matter.
You won't be feeling it.
It won't matter at all.
No.
So it's an interesting craving. And then, of course, I ended up, which for me is a nice thing because I have a lot of Buddhist friends. I ended up in the little Buddhist garden with the pool and the Buddha standing there.
Oh, you sat there,
And I sat there, yes.
So you made a list, and you made another list, or not? a list of the living and a list of the dead.
I made a list of the dead. I was very interested in the Dutch writers. That was, for me, was a real delight to be able to stand with you in front of that that memorial. I mean, it wasn't a grave, obviously.
Yeah, it was a memorial,
they haven't all been piled in there together. But it was lovely to stand there and have you say, oh, well, this writer, Maria Vasali, and she wrote these, and she was a doctor, and she didn't really believe that she was good enough.
Yes.
I was very touched by that because, of course, it becomes one of the questions in whatever sphere you work in as a creative person.
Are you pleased with your own writing?
Oh no, goodness no.
No, it's not good enough, or it's never good enough, or
I'm only getting round to being the person I wanted to be really quite late in my life. When I was 7 years old, I told myself I wanted to be a writer.
You did?
Yeah, it's taken me half a century. Okay. Not quite. I mean, I've written all my life, but, you know, adolescent stuff, poetry.
But then when you're 7 or 10 or...
But how extraordinary at 7 that I knew.
Yeah, I was 11. But when you were 7 and you told yourself, I want to be a writer, it was not a question of leaving things behind. To make the track.
Yes.
Oh well, yeah.
But
I
think probably I identified the fact that I remembered her name, Maria Vasali. Lovely name. Yeah. She must have had an Italian
She
family.
Really was called Maria Drooglever Fortuin,
okay.
And that was not an author's name.
Yeah, I like it. It has a nice ring. It's yes. Very, she could have been an opera singer.
Yeah.
But I identified with that thought, it's never good enough. I thought, yes, I've done so many things in my life in order to feel ready or prepared or good enough, I suppose. You know, I've worked as an actor, I've worked as a theatre director, I've worked as a teacher, I'm working as a tour guide. I do many, many things which are about communication. Everything I've done has been a craving to going back to craving.
Okay, but are you pleased with that? Are you satisfied with your role as an actor or as a producer?
Well, I wasn't.
Or is that still not good enough?
I wasn't highly recognised in any of the fields that I worked in. I was moderately successful in some of them, within a small coterie, but nothing. Public success, no. Public recognition, but then you know you have to want those things. That has to be a main driving craving, and it wasn't. I think I always saw them as rather like those stepping stones on the stream. They were always going to be stones to get me to
where you wanted to
be the creative person I wanted to be, and the creative person I want to be, I think, is this person.
Yes, you told me earlier on you was very satisfied with your life.
Yeah.
So I find it you have achieved your goal.
Well, no, that's a different. That's a different. I think it's no, it's not about achieving the goal. Although I've achieved some.
I think that little booklet contains 100 poems.
Possibly.
Possibly.
At least 95 bad ones, and possibly 5 that would be worth working on. I always had this idea: I'll never find my voice, my particular take on things. There are too many great writers out there, too many wonderful stylists or innovators or philosophers or observers.
It's all been written before.
It's all, the whole, that terrible cliche, it's all been done. Well, of course, but then, you know, you have to be a little bit egotistical and go, well, nobody like me has ever lived before. Nobody like me has ever had quite my point of view. So
you're unique.
Yes, of course I'm a unique little sunbeam. Snowflake or whatever. But and that's great, because I think that's only some inhibitor seems to have gone. I don't know how it happened. I really don't know how it happened. It's talking about a wall again. I got to one wall where I expected a wall, and there was a door, and somehow I went through that door, and
I mean, when you write, do you think of the reader?
I imagine, in an ideal situation, I would think of a reader as, this probably sounds awful, sentimental, like a friend I haven't made yet. I'm testing the waters with poetry and with other things that I'm doing. I'm allowing myself to be heard. It used to be very amateur and very secret and very private. And more I just share. You know, I like where the Americans say, get over yourself already. You just get over yourself. You either have something to share or you don't. Some people will like it. Some people will think it's banal or it won't touch them, and it may touch somebody. How do you know until you've made that leap of faith? It's either the process in itself is meaningful.
Back to the project.
Well, it's only that one of my closest friends, extremely successful actor, he's kept at it over virtually nearly 40 years, and he's particularly specialised in being a classical.
That grows to seed, things rank, and you see how horrible that sound was, rank.
And that's a very rarefied world. In the modern world, that's a very, very specific world, that world of Shakespeare or Molière or Greek theatre. And there's only a certain small percentage of contemporary actors who are actually technically able to do that work and do it well. This very old-fashioned attitude that you actually work at something, you dedicate yourself at something until you're great. Like,
how did you get there? Or
yes, what did it
was
take? What was your motivation?
Yes. Perhaps he was 7 and he told himself,
no,
I want to be an actor someday.
Yes, that's right. Yes, and I had that conversation with him about how he started. And what I'm interested in now is, if we have the opportunity and we raise the money, is filming him in New York. One of the questions we're asking is it possible for an actor's career to change over one night? Could you do one performance in the right place at the right time, being seen by the right critics and producers, which would suddenly open all the doors? No, it's like a lot of... but we've gone quite a long way. I've already filmed quite a lot with him.
You do the filming?
Well, I have a cameraman, so I'm not like Wouter.
You're
so I'm the director.
Yes, the director.
And then I thought, and then the ghosts would come, like his Nana or his father, or all the people in his life who said to him, you can't do this, or haunting ghosts. Like he'd open the wardrobe and suddenly his mother is there saying, look, I don't know what you think you're doing. This is still no job for a grown-up. You know, so, you know, and
grow up.
I liked this.
Be an adult.
It felt like a rather nice comic idea, and it's something I made. I still work on it. One of the things that's really terrific about where I feel, touch wood, that I feel that I am in life is these, what seem like quite random opportunities have suddenly presented themselves to me. It's a bit late to be saying, you know, I want to be a great success and make my name. I mean, now it has to be about, okay, this sounds interesting. Why not make a documentary? Why not write a musical? On one level, on paper, it sounds very pretentious.
Why not publish your poems?
Yeah, why not publish my poems? Absolutely.
It has all to do with the begin question, what will I leave behind? Well,
and we started with that question. Yeah. Maybe there is a feeling of trying to make up for lost time, that I spent a lot of my life a bit directionless, a bit desperate, so needy and desperate, and wanting somebody to tell me, it's all right, Patrick, you're great.
You want to leave something behind. So there's Patrick. What does he want?
What do I want to leave behind?
Yes. What are your aims for the struggle of life?
My message to the 21st century.
You want to rule the world?
No, very much not. So. I think I've evolved in my own very roundabout way a take on life, an attitude to life, a vision of life. And yes, I think I would like to have the opportunity to share it with more people, either through my writing, through, if I was to move into this world, making a film. And it's something to do with my resistance as I get older to the lack of quality I see in so much of contemporary life. The lack of respect for process, for creation, for discovery. Maybe it's
a calling in the desert.
Yeah, it's funny you should say
Perhaps.
that. That was a very psychic moment we have. And I think that's one thing that artists do. I think they are like prophets in the desert.
Dedication.
And I think it's
yeah.
important to recognise if you have a vocation.
Yeah.
Wouter has a calling to film. I have a calling, I think, to write. And to make my observations available for anybody who might be interested. And if that just means blogging, very old-fashioned these days to blog.
Yeah.
But if it just
But
means
you
blogging,
could do that.
if it
I
just
thought
means-
about it the
yes,
other day. But
very
you
much.
also want to finish the project with the Shakespeare.
And
of
clearly,
course.
that would be very interesting. But the great thing about being creative, I don't know if you find this in your own life, the great thing about creative is just go on to the next project.
Yeah.
Have it be about the process. I mean, if one has to really absolutely do everything with complete professional integrity and do everything you can to make it a real project. I think it's a great idea. You can use your judgment and tell me if you think it's a great idea, and then we'll move forward. My name is Patrick Kealey. I'm sometime actor, theatre director, teacher of drama, and currently I earn my living as a professional tour guide working in Ireland in the summer months. And I currently live in Hastings, which is a small English seaside town. You want personal stuff?